schema on write and schema on read are two very important topics in data science. So first let us start with schema on write. So the traditional RDBMS system that you have been using through the years is your schema on write. So what happens over here is you first create the schema, you first make the database, you first make the tables, you decide the structure of your data, and only then you can insert the data, and after that you run your SQL queries. So when I talk about the advantages of schema on write, there are various advantages, like all the data is in the same place, the relationships are very well defined, there's one view of data, your schema is perfect, so there's no chance that your data is contaminated in any way. But despite these advantages, there are certain problems that you face when you work on schema on write. And those problems are कि if my table is not ready, I cannot get the data inside. So first table ready होना चाहिए, पहले schema ready होना चाहिए. अभी data science में होता क्या है कि many a times you are getting the data from external sources. So till the data comes to you, you don't know the structure of the data. So first you have to get the data inside and then study its structure, or then study its schema. So then schema on write does not work. Another thing is, first you are making the schema and then you are getting the data inside. So once schema is in place, it is difficult to change it. So as your business is changing, as your business is going to have new demands, it will be difficult to maintain up to those demands, because changing the schema is difficult. The third thing that happens on the same line is, because you have stored the data in a particular format, going back to getting the data in the raw format or atomic format is not possible. And before you start running the queries, there is lots of work to do. So the query running is faster, but to get to that point where you can actually execute the queries, before that lot of work, lot of effort is required. So you first have to think about what kind of schema you have to create. You create that schema, you get the data inside perfectly fitting to that schema, and then you start running the queries. The last point and disadvantage of schema on write is that if you have not stored a particular type of data, then you have no way to process it or no way to access it. So if your schema does not store something and later on you want it, you have not stored it, you don't get it. Now this kind of architecture worked very well for other day-to-day life applications, or basic kind of working of organizations. But when I think of data science, in data science you wish to have structured, unstructured, semi-structured information. The adoption process should be faster, modification process should be flexible. So when you need that flexibility, schema is a hindrance as a first point. So schema on read, what does it say? Schema on read says that you don't need schema right now. You can have schema when you are reading the data. So when you are getting the data into your store, it is okay to get it first without schema. So you get the raw data. You let the data come. So you store the data with minimum structure. But इसका मतलब ये नहीं है कि schema ही नहीं चाहिए. Schema चाहिए. Schema is important. But you are applying schema during the query phase. So as the name suggests, it is schema on read. When you are reading the data, you are applying the schema. So as I discussed, advantages are flexibility. आपने एक बार raw data store कर लिया है. You have stored raw data once. You have stored the data which is at atomic level. So now whatever you want, you can get from it. So if your leaf level data is kept intact, it is untransformed, you can use it in any manner you wish to. So this particular methodology will encourage experimentation and exploration. So whatever you wish to explore with the data, whatever kind of relations you wish to experiment with, you have data for that experimentation and exploration. What happens is, because you are getting the data inside without any processing on it, the speed of generating fresh actionable knowledge is faster. You don't have to wait for the schema to be in place to get the data inside. You get the data inside, the data is ready with you. You can apply the schema on whatever part of data you wish to retrieve. But does it have some disadvantages? Yes. Inaccuracies can be there if you don't take care of your assessment step properly. कि you don't assess your data properly. Because see, पहले जब schema पहले आता था तो आपको पता है कि सही डेटा अंदर आया है. अभी आप रॉ डेटा अंदर ले रहे हो, अभी बाद में अच्छे से स्कीमा अप्लाई नहीं किया, बाद में ETL प्रोसेस अच्छे से नहीं किया तुम लोगों ने, तो फिर inaccuracies आ जाएगा. So as the second disadvantage talks about validation, inaccuracies or incomplete query results are possible if you don't care of this thing. And actual query running is smaller. Time to get the actionable knowledge is shorter. Because पहले schema नहीं आ रहा है, schema बाद में आ रहा है. But जो query execution का speed है वो थोड़ा बढ़ जाएगा as compared to schema on write. क्यों? Schema on write में schema पहले से है ना, तो query fast execute होता है. Query execute करते वक्त ज़्यादा सोचना नहीं पड़ता है. यहाँ पे you have to put schema in place and then run the query. Okay, schema on read है, लेते वक्त तो ले लिया, but अभी पढ़ते वक्त schema apply करो, तो query execution speed is slow. Now which one is better? आपके पास structured data है, वही repetitive task आपको करना है, fast results चाहिए, schema on write is better. But you are working with lots of unknown of data, you are getting data from multiple sources, जैसे data science में होता है. So data science के लिए क्या perfect है? तो schema on read.